My name is Drew. I'm a sociologist.
My name's Kate. I'm a media production specialist.
And welcome to the first episode of Everyone Should Read.
Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to talk to you all about the books, plays, short stories, essays, sonnets, everything that someone has probably told you to read. You've almost definitely heard the title of, but odds are you haven't actually read.
I think reading is just becoming so kind of difficult these days. It's a premium. Time is on a premium. Everything's kind of tough. And if you didn't read it in middle school, when are you going to find the time to do so today? It's difficult. It can be difficult to get into reading. But we read a lot. So we've read the books for you. We've read the plays. We've read the sonnets. We've read the essays. We've read the books. And it is time for us to pick them apart for you so you don't have to.
Yeah, we're going to get into sociology implications,
Absolutely.
Pop culture references. We want to understand why something has been in print for over 100 years and the average person hasn't read it. Why do we keep publishing new editions of something? Is it just because they're pretty, or is it because they're still socially relevant?
You know, what makes something a classic? What makes something immortal? What does posterity mean in the context of literature? This first season is all about Gothic literature, specifically. So Gothicism is characterized by this unknown, this haunting sort of response to the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. Everything was sterile, everything was scientific, everyone was exploring, and a lot of people came together and said, I kind of don't love this. Where's the mystery? Where's the drama? Where's the sex? Thus Gothic literature was born.
Yeah, it's this idea of this haunting, unknown. There are going to be monsters. There are going to be ghosts. There's going to be sort of that icky feeling that something is out there.
Mm-hmm.
There is a conversation between nature and city, known and unknown.
Absolutely.
And we are excited to get into it.
I'm really excited to get into it. It's sort of this return, this reverential reconsideration of what's the word? Metaphor and allegory and mystery. I'm ready.
Yes. And it's culturally relevant right now. Today we are doing Frankenstein and Dracula.
The grandparents of Gothic literature, for sure.
The true classics that everyone cites, but also inspirations for movies that are still coming out right now, TV shows that are on, books that are still being published. The beautiful thing about Gothic literature is that people are still publishing it today.
And I think part of the reason why is because even as we come deeper and deeper into a more sort of binary, scientifically understood, positivistic world, there is always going to be an element of the unknown that we are dying to explore. If that's internal, if that's external. A lot of people sort of play with the unknown through conspiracy theories, but
there's also an element of fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
That we deal with every day with the way that the world revolves. And the way that we deal with that is trying to find other characters that we can identify with. And so Drew's going to start us off.
I'm going to start us off with Frankenstein. Frankenstein is classic Gothic literature written in 1816, published in 1818, although I think there is somewhere floating around in the sort of echelons of academia an 1816 and 1817 revised text. But the most popular, well-known one is the 1818 text. This book was written by Mary Shelley while she was kicking it with Lord Byron and some other landed gentry of the English upper echelons. They were in a scary story writing contest. It was a ghost story writing contest. It was the year without a summer, the eruption of Mount Tambora. And so it was cold. The sky was sort of ominous and dark. The atmosphere was there. And they were hanging out together. And he said, oh my gosh, what if we did a scary story contest? And so she wrote this scary story contest, or she wrote this scary story. And Frankenstein was the baby that she came up with. This ingenious story, and we're gonna get into it right now. I'm not gonna waste any time. So Frankenstein centers around this man, Victor. He is young. His life is cushy. His life is perfect. His family is wealthy. They find this girl named Elizabeth living in the dirt. And Elizabeth is the picture of beauty. She is blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and her skin is like fresh milk, and she's gorgeous. And his family retrieves her from the dirt and the lady that they retrieve her from, who is also living in the dirt, goes, I always knew you were destined for better things than being with me here in the dirt. So please go with them now to live in their
Too
manor.
pretty to be a dirt baby.
Too pretty to be a dirt baby. I can identify with being too pretty to be a dirt. I think we're all too pretty to be dirt babies. And so Elizabeth is sort of plucked out of the dirt and she goes to live with Victor and his family. Victor also has some siblings. They have a staff. They have caretakers. And so you've got this like beautiful woman running around and growing up alongside this young man, and she like adores him, and he's like, my life is great. My parents love me. They give me so many books. I read a lot. And this beautiful woman runs around next to me, and I like her, and she likes me, and one day we're gonna get married. They found her in the dirt. She was made for me. Thank you very much. And so that's his life. And as he's growing up, he's kind of fixated on alchemy. And that's like his special interest. And he's like reading all about it and he's obsessed. And his dad is just sort of like, yeah, whatever. I mean, like, I love you. I support you. But alchemy is lame. And Victor's like, okay, well, I'm going to, whatever. Like, I like my alchemy. I'm going to keep reading it. And then like some time goes by and he's like, I want to go to college. I'm like, my life is perfect. And he really focuses on this. He says so much like, my life is perfect. It is not. My family didn't do anything to make me a terrible person. Like my life was great. Social theory dictates that having a hegemonic life standpoint that is a perfect life automatically kind of predisposes you to being or lacking resilience and being kind of sucky, unfortunately. So.
And we will get into that.
And we will get into that. And so he thinks that there's no reason that his life, that he should be imperfect. Unfortunately, this is exactly why he's imperfect. Anyway, he grows up in Geneva. He goes to college at the University of Ingolstadt in Germany, and he's hanging out there, and he like gets back into alchemy. He's exploring alchemy. And one day, as he is sort of meditating and going on a walk, he sees lightning destroy a tree. Lightning destroys a tree, and in watching the tree get destroyed, he comes to understand, he has this epiphany about the nature of life and creating life and where life comes from, okay? Okay. This eventually like led into the sort of motif of the lightning and the bang bang crash that we see in the films, but that is a complete invention of Hollywood. This does not happen in the books. And I think the way that he brings the creature to life is left kind of intentionally vague, and both so that like Mary Shelley doesn't have to go into the mechanics of the world that she's creating because she's telling a greater story, but also to really lean into that gothic element. And he touches on this in the book as he writes it. He says, you know, as I tell this story, you're probably going to wonder how exactly I did it. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you how I did it.
Well, and Hollywood also always has it in a castle, but it's in a dorm room.
It is in his dorm room. For one, his bedroom is like just off the chamber where he's constructing this body. And
he's 19.
You know,
he's a freshman in college.
He's literally at the University of Ingolstadt. Like, and he's not like, there's no like gurney or table that he like raises up to the ceiling and is like, no, like it's literally the kitchen table. It's kind of gross if you think about it. No sterility. And so he's hanging out there and he basically starts grave robbing. He's trying to be ethical about it. And so he's like, well, you know, I understand the mechanics of life. I understand like the building blocks of life. And I could, one, build giant cells from scratch and imbue those with life, but then my creature would be the size of a building. And right now I'm focused on like a proof of concept. I'm not really focused on like building a Titanic thing right now. I just want to make a thing. I want to prove that the thing can be made. And so he makes the thing by stitching together what he thinks are the most beautiful parts of different corpses. Weird. We never really touch on how weird this is. Like, we talk about how the monster is grotesque and ugly and stitched from different pieces. He specifically chose the beautiful pieces. So, like, he's looking at some dead person's arm and going, yes.
Best fingers I've ever seen.
Literally. And he's like,
prettiest kneecap on the planet.
Exactly. And that's weird. And he thinks that this is going to make a beautiful creature, but sort of putting all of the beautiful things together on the same creature is what makes it grotesque.
I wonder if it's an uncanny valley thing that they just didn't have words for at the time.
And again, like, that's why I think, like, a current remake of Frankenstein that is gothic, yes, but also like it's funny. This is a funny story, and like it wasn't intended to be funny necessarily, but it is in many ways kind of funny.
It's poking fun.
It's definitely, it's very punchy because that's what gothic literature is, right? It's punchy. And so he puts this creature together and he brings it to life, and he does it with these means that he does not describe, but you can assume that there are like all kinds of elixirs and maybe some incantations. Like he could be drawing sigils. Like we really don't know, and that leaves a lot of room for imagination and contemporary reimaginings, which I don't think are as imaginative as they could be. I've said it before, I will say it again, I really think Wes Anderson would do a really good Frankenstein because of how funny it is, because of how procedural it is.
But there is a Frankenstein coming out next year.
which is, I think, Del Toro.
Yes.
I love Del Toro. I trust that man with the screen. I trust that man with a camera. And so I am not going to preemptively criticize his rendition of Frankenstein.
No, I'm excited for it.
Would I love Wes Anderson's? Yes. Wes, call us. We will write it. I'll research it. Kate will write it, and it'll be great.
We'll showrun it. We'll take care of all of it for you. Don't worry.
In the meantime, Del Toro, my eyes are on you. So he brings his creature to life, and immediately, as soon as the creature comes to life, it like wakes up, and he describes it as having these really beautiful teeth that just look out of place with the rest of its body. And he's like, "Oh my god!" And he runs away. He freaks out.
Did it go to Turkey to get its veneers? Is that what happened?
I'm gonna go to Turkey for all of my healthcare, actually, at this rate. But he like freaks out. He runs away. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" Horrified immediately by how ugly this creature is. So he leaves to go to his bedroom. He goes to his bedroom. And the monster he calls it a monster. I don't think it's a monster. The creature is very nice, very sweet. The scientific word for a human-like thing that has been created is usually homunculus. This also, I think, comes from alchemy. So I will be calling it the homunculus. I will be shortening that to homie just for the purposes of the story. So he runs into his room. He panics. Homie like comes in and like looks at him. He screams. He's like, "Oh my god!" And homie's like, "Okay, I apologize. I'm gonna go." And he leaves. And so he's like in this room, and immediately, now that he's accomplished it, mind you, while he's creating this creature, he is in a like a fugue state. He's not eating. He's not sleeping. He's obsessing over his work. And like I've been there. You've been there. Like I said, we are academics, so we know what it is.
This is just like a normal,
absolutely,
college experience.
Definitely,
unfortunately.
like, as soon as like the middle of the semester or quarter has passed, like that is when you enter that space, and that's when some of our best work gets done. Personally, as a sociologist, if I were not eating, not sleeping, which has happened frequently, just sort of letting myself be animated only by my will to explore, and then I have my breakthrough, I'm not going to run away like a little bitch. Victor, however, has no problem running away like a little bitch. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've done this. I can't believe this has happened. Like, I cannot imagine. I'm a terrible person. This is my fault." And I'm like, "Well, you're a terrible person because you've abandoned your research. You're not writing about it. You're not calling your closest friends and confidants for peer review. You're just like washing your hands of the whole affair." Pathetic.
You're also not taking responsibility for the life you've created.
And so, of course, like, yeah, sure, he has a very somatic reaction, actually, to creating this monster. He like is still not eating. He's still not sleeping. He goes into like extraordinary depression, which is really interesting when I read like a text from before our sort of analysis of mental health. And a lot of the things that they describe, like CPTSD and depression, are touched on without having necessarily the nuanced understanding of it, but like it's so frequent. It's been like universal, and it's always interesting seeing that in sort of old literature, 19th century literature, and those kinds of things. But he falls into this depression. His friend shows up and he's like, "Oh my god, you look terrible." And Victor's like, "Yeah, I can't tell you what I did, but I did a really bad thing." And
I made a mistake.
And his friend's like, "Okay, that's fine. Like let's get you cleaned up." And so he slowly but surely like starts to come back to himself. Immediately washes his hands of the creature that homie, excuse me, immediately washes his hands of homie, forgets that he created homie, and just like kind of fucks off to like hang out with his friend in Germany. And he's like, "Let's go on walks, let's get coffee, let's hang out at the cafe." And his friend's like, "I'm so glad you're doing better." Except his professors are like, "Oh my gosh, Victor, best like physical scientist we know. Like he's a genius, he's great." And this makes Victor ill. Like to be reminded of his research and like of any kind, it makes him sick. If my professors are stopping me while my best friend is in town to tell him how brilliant they think my research is,
your ego would not fit in the studio.
Here's the thing, like I would melt into a puddle, sure, just like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Like Victor also melted into a puddle, but he melted into a pathetic puddle. I would be melting into a little glowing puddle. I'd be so just elated. I'd be like, "Please."
Because you're not being haunted by the things that you have done.
I am never haunted by the sociology that I create. It's beautiful. Thank you, Victor.
The work you're doing is benefiting society.
That is true.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah. And I would love my homie if I made one.
I'm sure you would.
I would love him so much. And
we are not those kinds of scientists.
We are. It's true. For the record, I am a social scientist. We're both social scientists.
I am not a social scientist at all. I'm not a scientist in any way. But
damn,
go on.
That's true.
Go on. I studied film.
I think of you as a scientist.
I appreciate that.
Of course, bestie.
Thank you.
We inquire. We explore. But so then he gets a letter. He gets a letter, and he's like, something terrible has happened. Your little brother has been killed. Like, please come back to Geneva at once. And Victor's like, I know who did it. It was the monster. Mind you, the monster that he has not seen or thought of or considered for the past like several months that he's gallivanting around Ingolstadt. So he goes back to Geneva. And there is this woman who's like been their help, their caretaker, sort of the nanny for so long. And she's been accused of this murder. Mary Shelley slips a full procedural courtroom drama into the middle. She fits two of them in Frankenstein, actually. And no one ever talks about that. I've never seen a Frankenstein adaptation that has the courtroom dramas, and they're really fun.
And I would love to see that version.
Again, like Wes Anderson would do such a good job. I'm so sorry. Like it would be so good.
No, I'm here for it, and I really hope Del Toro gets a courtroom drama.
At least one. Like, I'll take one. But basically, the caretaker, she's in court and they're like, you killed this little boy. And she's like, I didn't do it. I didn't kill the little boy. And they're like, yes, you did. Like, obviously he's dead and his affects were found on your person, like his little pendant. And you killed him for his little pendant. And the family, the Frankenstein family, they're all like, literally, we love her so much. Like, she knows that if she asked for the pendant, she could just have it. Like, she's awesome. Like, we don't believe that she would have killed him. But she pleads guilty. She's like, you know what? I want them to have closure. I don't know who did it, but like, I will sacrifice my good standing and my life for their closure.
Which is crazy.
Really just so tear to my eye kind of moment. Also, it says something about the sort of economic structures of the gentry and the legal system and what it is to be in a position of service. So less tear, more radical economic change, but that's later.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. So she sentenced herself to death. Basically. But before, they're like, well, I can't believe you confessed. Like, I can't believe you killed him. And they're like, she's like, I didn't really, but I did it for you guys. And they're like, well, we love you. And then she's
someone
absolved.
had to be guilty.
Right, exactly. And so she places herself as that sacrificial lamb, and she is like, okay, I will die so that you can have peace of mind. And Victor's like, great. The monster, homie, has killed 2 people. Therefore, I have killed 2 people. This creature is awful and vile and has been since the day it woke up, even though it was just ugly at first and nothing else. And
which is the closest he comes to taking responsibility.
Literally, and that's it. He takes this like modicum of responsibility, and he's like, I did it. I killed these people. This is my fault because I created this creature. Like, I have to go. I have to go. I'm depressed again. And everyone's like, why are you depressed? Like, what? We get it. Like, we're so sorry he's dead, but like, we've been with him for the past several months while you've been out at college, and we are less sad than you are. Why are you so sad? What's eating you up? And he's like, I have to go. And so he goes to the mountains.
Because no one knows that he's created homie.
Exactly. No one knows he's created homie. So he goes to the mountains and he's just like walking. He's basically on a hike. He's doing like a little dog sled. It's like, we live in Seattle, both of us. And so it's very much like off to the Olympics, off to the Cascades, off to hike Rainier to clear your head.
Which we've never done, for the record.
For the record. Our partners love some dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Love some dirt.
We're the indoor cats in both of our relationships.
We love a high-rise brunch. Absolutely we do.
Rooftop views, into it.
Absolutely. I'm doing one after this.
I love that.
Yeah. So he's in the mountains and homie approaches him and he's like, hey, fuck you. And Victor's like, oh my God, it's you. Like, the gross. He calls it the wretch over and over again, like capital W wretch, like the wretch spoke. And I'm like, you're literally a terrible dad, like absentee father to the max. And so the homie is like, well, here's what happened. I like woke up and I went to check on you and you were like kind of freaking out and having your moment. And so I was like, okay, well, he's in bed. I'm just going to go. And so I left and I started walking on my own and I was having a good time. And I was like finding nuts and berries and they were raw and, they were cool. It was whatever. And then I discovered fire. Somebody had left a fire going and I was like, well, this is awesome. And then I cooked the nuts and berries and I found out.
Which the subtitle of Frankenstein is The Modern Prometheus.
It is the modern. Oh my gosh, I completely left that part out. Yes, the subtitle is The Modern Prometheus. It is very much like Prometheus is the Greek myth about the creation of humanity and setting them out on their own. And it is Prometheus who pays the price for giving them fire. Like Zeus punishes him, even though Zeus and Prometheus work together to create humanity.
Yeah, Prometheus was a titan.
Prometheus was a titan, Zeus was a god. The Titans preceded the gods, for those of you who don't know your classic Greek myths. But if you're listening to this podcast, you probably
We'll get there eventually, don't worry.
We will arrive there. But so he like discovers the fruits and nuts and he's like, wow, this is even better. Like, wow, I'm having a great time. And he's just walking around and he's like building his little charcuterie boards from scratch and he's having a wonderful time and he's being homey. Like, what else can you say? And then he notices like a child in danger, and he's like, oh my goodness, like a child in danger, and he goes to save the kid, and as he saves it, a person runs up to him and sees him and is like, you're so ugly, you must be evil, what are you doing to my child? And he pulls a gun on him, and it's awful, and he's like, whoa, whoa, like homie's like freaking out, and he's like, this is the things I get for saving this kid. Like, okay, fine, I guess like that really hurt my feelings, but whatever. And he very quickly starts to realize that, even though he is a person with thoughts and feelings, and he is capable of, being a person, people take one look at him and they scream and run away. And this is really sad.
Yeah, he's never escaping the monster allegations.
He's not, and mind you, he like the first act he does when he sees it is like relieve them of suffering, right? Like he literally saves them. And people immediately accuse him of being a monster, which is really, it's very tragic. I think Frankenstein is in many ways a tragedy, but it's more about Homie than it is about Victor, who sucks.
And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. It is. They tell him that he's a monster the whole time until he begins to do monstrous things. And so he's like, he realizes, he's like, okay, like I got to learn how to be a person. Like I need to learn how to be a person. And the sociologist in me like falls in love with this character because he discovers his own version of ethnography and participatory observation analysis. He like comes up on this cabin, and the cabin has like this little like storeroom attached to it that has a peephole into the main room of the cabin. And he like camps out in this storeroom, and he's like hiding out there, and he's watching the lives of these people unfold without infiltrating, like just like true participatory observation. Like it wouldn't pass an institutional review board.
But
today,
he is an anthropologist.
But he like literally an anthropologist. And so he's like watching them, and he's learning how to speak. He's listening to them read each night, like aloud to each other, and he's learning language. They talk about like world affairs, and he extrapolates world affairs. He starts teaching himself like multiple languages based on like the things they say. And as he learns about like their lives together, he learns that they have like a bit of a tragedy. He sees that like one of the people, this young man in the cabin, is like very morose, and he's like, I wonder why he's so sad. And as he slowly learns the story, he develops so much empathy for these people. He also realizes that they're spending a lot of time working, like chopping wood, raising animals, like bringing in food. And so he starts doing those things while they sleep because and so he starts doing those things while they sleep. And he's like gathering wood for them, and he's harvesting food for them, and he's just leaving it there. And they're like, oh my gosh, like some good spirit has smiled upon us. And he does it so that they can have like more time to themselves, more time to be together. He's such a nice, sweet, caring creature. And eventually he's like, I know I'm ugly, but I love these people. I want to be their friend. And so one day while everyone's gone, the father who lives in this cabin is blind. He's a blind man, and he's like, this man cannot look upon me, but like he can hear my voice. And if I go in there and I entreat his friendship, maybe he will introduce me to his family, and they will understand that like they can look inside. I'm just a little ugly. Right. And so he waits until everyone's gone, and then he goes in there, and he goes to talk to the dad, and he's like, hey, like I really want friends, and like I've been taking care of you guys for a while, and you don't know me and you can't see me, but like I need your protection, and I just want to explain who I am, all these things. And the dad is moved. He's like, oh my gosh, like that, you sound like such a sweet young man. Like, of course, I will introduce you to my family, and I will give you my protection. I don't know why you would need my protection. You seem like you can handle yourself. You're bringing us wood, but whatever. And so as he's about to say, well, I can't wait to introduce you to my family, I will explain them to you, and then I'll bring you in. Like, I can't see you, but you seem like an upstanding guy. The family comes home. The son comes home. He sees him. He's immediately horrified by how ugly he is. He pulls a gun on him.
And there we go.
He pulls a gun on him. And he's like, ew, what are you? And the monster runs away. The monster's freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna go before I get shot again. And so he flees, and he's devastated. He's so crushed, and he's like beating himself up. He's like, maybe I should have taken more time. Maybe I should have like written them notes. Maybe I should have this. Maybe I should have that. But like the fact of the matter is he's alone again. And this sort of like loneliness, this isolation, there is a Harvard study, the sort of long-term quality of life study that they've been doing for multiple generations, where they assess what makes a good life. That's one of their biggest questions. And they find that one of the universal things that we can surmise based on all of the people that they've interviewed and their families and their kids is the idea that being surrounded by people who you love and people who also love you can lessen the experience of pain. If you have things like sciatic nerve pain, it can slow the rate of neurological degeneration if you have dementia. Like being in community is one of the things that we are hardwired to do, and this monster is just repeatedly excluded. And Homie is repeatedly excluded, and it's so sad. Like it's so sad. And so he slowly like starts to realize, he's like, okay, well, these people hate me, and I have no choice but to hate them too. Like forget this. Cornel West also writes about the experience of nihilism in America, specifically Black nihilism in America. And he says it's like characterized by this feeling of like meaninglessness, lovelessness, and hopelessness. When you have no meaning, no love, and no hope, when that is taken from you and the ability to have the agency to make those things are taken from you, then you end up in this place where it's nihilism, and nihilism is nothing. It comes from the Latin word nihil, meaning nothing.
You lose your humanity.
You lose your humanity, and suddenly you are not, you engage in self-destructive behaviors and also externally destructive behaviors, is what Cornel West sort of articulates. And, that's a little more nuanced of a conversation because that did not happen in a vacuum. However, in the case of the monster, this also didn't happen in a vacuum. He had to be taught that he was meaningless and loveless. And that hurts. And so he begins doing sort of externally destructive behaviors. He becomes more externally destructive than self-destructive, but mostly because he can't be destroyed. He's like super strong and can withstand the cold. And, I'm sure he could kill himself. And we get to that eventually. Anyway, he comes across the kid as he's making his way to Geneva because he hears that that's where the Frankenstein family is from. He's making his way to Geneva. He finds this kid. He finds this boy. He's like, you're young. And he's very admonishing to the boy. He's like, you're young. You don't really know what ugly is yet. I'm going to take you. You're going to be my apprentice. We're going to be friends. And then you'll learn that I'm just a cool person. And the child is like, you are literally so disgusting. I hate you. You're awful. And he's screaming. He's like, I'm going to call my father Mr. Frankenstein and I'm going to have you killed. And first of all, crazy that a child would say that. Second, the monster is like, literally, I have had enough. Fuck this.
All of you Frankensteins are ruining my life.
Literally, all of you Frankenstein. And he heard the name Frankenstein. He was like, okay, I got something for you. I got something for that ass. And he kills the child. He killed the child. He steals its pendant. And he starts making his way towards the Frankenstein family. He finds the caretaker of the child, or one of the caretakers. She's taking a nap. And he sees her taking a nap. And he looks at her and he's like, she's beautiful. Oh, what it would be to be in love and have someone love me. Shame that if she were awake, she would probably treat me like shit too. Immediately, I hate her. And this is bad. This is a bad thing. Also, it mirrors a lot of contemporary misogyny that we see today. Sort of seeing women as something to be achieved and preemptively that achievement being withheld from you and executing violence and hatred in your actions, in your beliefs, and in your words towards women. The monster embodies this really well. I think Shelley did a great job communicating this very economically too. She does not mince words in this book. And you see it a lot with sort of online misogyny as well. So that's just a little side relevance, which I think is interesting. That's why I think Frankenstein is an immortal text. But
also these are parallel storylines. So this is the child and the woman from the procedural courtroom drama that we've already discussed.
Yes. This is when it is revealed what happened when the monster encounters Victor. So he kills the child. He places the token because he's angry. He's like, this woman, she would never love me. He places the token that he got from the child into this woman's pocket.
He's framing her.
He's framing her for the murder. And he says, put those apples in your pipe and smoke them. That one has to stay in. That's really funny. All of that has to stay in. That's hilarious. I'm sorry. And so he fucks off. He fucks off away. And then that is when the murder is discovered. She is taken to court. Victor is contacted. He returns home to Geneva. He finds out what happened. He blames himself for he correctly assumed it was the monster, although he assumed it was because the monster is evil by nature, and we have learned
and wants to hurt him.
Right. But we've learned through the monster's sort of narrative. Oh my God, homie, please. It feels like a slur to say monster. I don't want to say it. This shows implicit bias, everyone. But homie, we find that so many attempts to integrate into society and into community and to be loved, and so many rejections have made him into a destructive entity. And so he says to Victor, he's like, hey, build me a wife who is just as ugly as I am. And then, then I'll be fine. And, we can go be ugly
and
together.
It's so interesting that he wants her to be ugly too, because he knows that if she is uglier than him, she will be okay with how ugly he is.
And okay, so this goes also back to the role of Elizabeth. Remember, the beautiful dirt girl who was too beautiful to be in the dirt. The betrothed. It's discussed throughout the narrative up to this point that she is essentially betrothed to Victor. And Victor places all of his measure of achievement and happiness. He's like, I'm going to be a great scientist, and then when I'm done being a good scientist, I'm going to settle down with my beautiful wife who loves me. Do we know much about Elizabeth? No. She is very noble and beautiful and divine feminine. But that's it.
That's pretty much the whole of her character.
Really?
Is being pretty and being up on a pedestal.
And and Shelley is, again, so brilliant because all of this is communicated so effectively. Again, she does not mince words. She's not overly loquacious in writing this book. She communicates all of these things effectively. So homie begs her to come into existence. He begs Frankenstein to make this woman, which is sort of the homunculi foil to Victor's Elizabeth. Really, really interesting. Victor says, I cannot conceivably do that. And the monster says, literally, please. Or you could show me love and affection. Like, he gives him two options.
You've got a choice here.
He's like, you can make me a hideous wife to not despise me, and we can be ugly together, and at least I'll have some companionship. But also,
or you could do it yourself.
Or you could do it, or you could love me, right? And it's, again, like, she places this really interesting juxtaposition there. She's like, you can give me a woman to do the emotional labor of making me feel good about myself, or you can parent. You can parent. Oh, it's so good. And Victor's like, one ugly wife coming up, you know? Like,
he's like, I certainly cannot find it in myself to love you. Let's find you an ugly wife.
I will literally do the thing that like sent me into a depression rather than take responsibility and like raise my kid. Real. How timely. Kate has a little more on that one later. That's gonna be fun.
It's crazy. It's actually, should we just get into it now?
Do you wanna?
That Mary Shelley is on this retreat with Lord Byron, who, in between the time that Frankenstein was originally written and the 2 years later when it was published, Lord Byron knocks up her stepsister and then proceeds to abandon that child. He then eventually does take responsibility for the child because Mary Shelley and her husband Percy are like, this woman is not responsible enough to raise this child. This child is being raised in poverty. It's not well taken care of. My sister is unwell. You need to take responsibility for this child.
Right.
He does very loosely take on he financially can afford to, but he very loosely takes on parenting this child. She lives with him for a very brief moment in time. Connects well with like the women that he's dating all over the place. They all love the child, but like his lifestyle does not afford taking care of a child.
And instead of just changing his lifestyle and using his assets to raise this kid, he just continues doing what he does.
He puts the child in a nunnery where she makes it until about like 12 or 14, and then she does get sick and die. She doesn't make it. But Lord Byron does have another daughter, who's Ada Lovelace, which is crazy. From
Remind us who Ada Lovelace is.
Who is Ada Lovelace, scientific computer genius, was abandoned by her father. He died when she was very young. He died in the Greco-Turkish War, I believe.
Okay.
Which is crazy because he wasn't Greek, but the Greeks loved him.
Hey.
We'll take it. He had quite the life. But I think Mary Shelley writing about a character who abandons its creations and its children.
Absolutely.
While staring Lord Byron dead in the eyes, being like, this is you. You're the bad guy.
I'm writing about you.
I need you to know that you're a terrible person. Is pretty beautiful.
I think so.
I love that for her. And she was 19 when she did it.
And it's true to the form of Gothic literature. It's very punchy.
Yes.
It's true to the form of Gothic literature in that it is definitely pushing back against establishment.
Yeah, Gothic literature holds up a mirror to society. And in this case, Mary Shelley is holding up a mirror to the man across the table from her directly.
Who happens to be a fixture of society. I mean, he's a lord. He's landed gentry. You know, he's the whole nine. And she's like just sitting. You can't see this because if you're listening, you can't see this. But if you're watching on YouTube, she's just like this across the table with her book. I'm holding up a middle finger and waving it at a camera.
So sorry to our audio audience who missed that.
But okay, so back into the story. So Victor begins the task of making Homie a wife.
Yes.
And he goes off into the, he goes so many places. He's off somewhere else now in Europe.
He's a traveler.
Okay. And he's there. I think he goes somewhere around England, if I can recall correctly. They definitely spend some time in England because he procrastinates it for a little bit. And the monster starts stalking him. And Homie's like, where's my wife? Where's my wife? It's like when a kid comes into the kitchen, like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Or are we there yet? We'll get there when we get there kind of vibes. Except Victor is afraid for his life and also his family's lives. And so he's like, I have to do this before he starts killing more people. And so eventually he hunkers down. He makes the wife. And at the last minute, the wife is almost done. And the monster's kind of like peeking through the window like, oh my God, here comes my wife. Victor freaks out. He's like, no, because she's going to be evil too because she's ugly. And again, it's like, no, not evil because ugly. Evil because you can't take responsibility and raise a child through primary and secondary socialization. Even if you did make him as a full-grown man.
Evil because unloved.
Evil because unloved, which is so real. And so he gives up making the wife, like smashes it to pieces. Monster
Scraps
freaks
the project.
out. Monster gets so angry. He's like, okay, I got you. I got something for you. I will see you on your wedding night. And Victor's like, okay, well, he's going to kill me on my wedding night. Like, that's that. And so he puts off his wedding night for a while.
Victor doesn't dream big enough.
No, he doesn't. The monster, though. Homie has imagination.
He's got Kendrick Lamar levels of hatred.
I hate the way that you... Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And I respect it.
I seek to emulate it in some ways. So homie goes off to somewhere else, kills one of Victor's friends. Victor then arrives, is framed for the murder. They're like, you're a strange man who blew into town, and this man died around the same time, and then Victor's like, who died? What man? He realizes it's one of his best friends, the friend who came to him while he was in Ingolstadt. And he's like, oh my God, I did this. I did do this. I killed him. And he falls into another depression. And then the judge is like, actually, I think you're dramatic, but I don't think you killed this man. And your family is telling me that you didn't kill this man. I feel like you didn't kill this man,
and
so we're gonna let you go.
Rich.
And you're rich. And absolutely being like, your dad came, and your rich dad, who is rich from Geneva, Richland,
he says you didn't do it, so it must be true.
It's giving very much like Glinda the Good Witch from like the Upper Uplands.
I love that for her. But yeah, it's another character who does not take responsibility for their actions until it is too late.
Of course. Absolutely.
Spoiler alert.
So eventually he goes to get married to Elizabeth. Homie shows up the night that they are married and kills Elizabeth. And Victor's like, I thought you were going to kill me. And homie's like, well, now you're as lonely as I am, so fuck off. And he jumps out the window. He runs away. And Victor starts pursuing him. Now we're near the end of the story. The story's almost over. Victor starts pursuing him through places where homie can survive, like the tundra and across like just vast plains of nothing.
Victor cannot.
And as he's pursuing homie, things start showing up like food and fires and beds or like sleeping rolls.
And he doesn't question it.
Victor's like, yes, the gods are in support of my vengeance. They want me to take him down as well.
Meanwhile, it's homie being like, at least you're following me around.
Like, literally, homie's like, at least you are showing me attention. I will continue to sustain you. And as long as it's hatred, like, negative attention is attention. And I've spoken to people, as a sociologist, like, I've spoken to people in, like, interpersonal sort of confessionary sort of CBT capacities where people talk about like negative attention is enough. I will take negative attention if
I'll take whatever you give me.
Absolutely. And that's terrible. And again, those people often end up acting in self-destructive and externally destructive ways as well. The story essentially comes to a head where Victor hops on a boat and he's pursuing these people. Or he's with these people pursuing this monster. He's like, I just need like a ride up through into the tundra.
And this is that moment where the very popular mob scene comes from.
Yeah, because this is where everyone sort of agrees that, oh my gosh, homie is awful. Like, you're telling the story and you're so cool.
We need to hunt the monster.
And it's crazy too, because Victor is very clearly an unreliable narrator, like without a doubt.
Which is a famous Gothic literature
100%. Tool. And he's telling this story to these people who believe him and they see him as the victim. And long and short of it, homie, their battle comes to a head. He, in a fit of rage, kills Victor. And the person that Victor was talking to says, how could you do this to him? He was such an upstanding guy. And homie, more overtaken by like the fact that he is lonely now. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, well, you know what? I think I will kill myself. I think this is it. And this is what... Cornel West and also Leo Tolstoy in The Death of Ivan Ilyich write about like sort of the nature of suicide. And Emil Durkheim, the sociologist who explores the themes of enemy, he writes about suicide as it relates to sort of striving and no longer having anything to strive for, no community. And so the monster disappears off into the tundra and he says, I'm going to kill myself, except he doesn't actually when the book ends. He just sort of issues that promise and then goes off. And the story is kind of left open-ended. And that's how it ends. That is how Frankenstein ends. Long story, long recount with lots of little bits in there that I've inserted. And then I have a whole other analysis that we may or may not come to later in this episode. But that's Frankenstein.
Classic Gothic literature.
And foundational.
The first sci-fi novel.
Leave it to 19-year-old Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Good for her.
Legendary.
Truly crazy.
A great book, though. Really, yes. I really enjoyed reading it.
And then we have Dracula.
Tell me about Dracula.
Okay, so it is nearly 500 pages.
Gross.
Yeah, it's long. If you read it the way I did, where you just sit down and start from page 1 and go all the way to page 470 something, it is very long and it's not easy to get through. But It is an epistolatory story. It is written through journal entries, diaries, letters, all of these, like, captain's logs. It has everything in it.
Mhm.
And you hear from all the well, not all, but nearly all of the perspectives of the different characters in the story. And they're all dated. So there is a way to read it. It starts in like early May, and you read it in the time that it happens. And people who do that really enjoy the story because you're
Okay.
reading snippets, chapters, maybe like a few pages, maybe a couple paragraphs at a time. And that is a really easy way to break up this very long story into enjoyable bits.
Okay.
So it starts out as a travelogue.
Excellent.
We have Jonathan, who is on his very first work trip ever. He's a solicitor. He's going from England to Transylvania to get Count Dracula to sign the paperwork to purchase this manor home in England.
Okay.
The modern audience knows that Dracula is Dracula the vampire. The audience who was reading it for the first time ever at the time, that was a huge spoiler. That was a huge plot twist. You think he's just going to meet this lord in Transylvania. Everyone on Jonathan's journey who encounters him is pleading with him in whatever their native language is to, like, don't do this. This is a bad idea. You're gonna die. This is so dangerous. And he is writing in his little journal, and he's like, oh my God, everyone is so sweet, and they're worried about me on my first trip. It's so lovely. I had this great stew. I'm going to get the recipe for Mina, his fiance. He's like, I'm loving this. Look at me go. I'm a grown-up at my first job. And then he gets to the castle, and Dracula, I think we talk again about the idea that there are these moments of comedy in Gothic literature where Dracula is the only person in the castle Dracula, but he's trying to make Jonathan believe that there is a full host of employees. And so Dracula is driving the coach to pick Jonathan up. He is serving all of the meals. He, like, if you take it back and you look at Jonathan staying in his room and then think about Count Dracula running around trying to make it look like there is a full staff preparing meals and cleaning the castle and doing all these things, it's very comedic.
It is.
It doesn't stay particularly comedic, unfortunately. It's just these, like, funny snippets if you, like, really take a step back from what's going on in the story. Jonathan is terrified when he sees Dracula climbing down, like, face first, scaling down the castle building.
Kind of scuttling like a little
Yes, we have all of the classic tropes going on, and they weren't tropes at the time because this is one of the very first vampire novels. It's not the first, but it is one of the first. Vampire was the first. It was written at that same writing contest where Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein.
See why we said grandparents.
Crazy. No, but we have Jonathan, who slowly realizes that he is trapped in this castle with some sort of monster, but he doesn't really fully grasp how monstrous the situation is or how scary it is. He tries to break out, and there's this mist that comes to him, and these three women materialize. In pop culture, these women are referred to as the Brides of Dracula, but they're not referred to the Brides of Dracula in Dracula. There's a lot that we know about Dracula and all of the interpretations and everything that come later from different film adaptations, television adaptations, that are not true to the novel. One is that I think if you look at any sort of, like, vampire, werewolf, Team Edward, Team Jacob dialogue now, the vampires and the werewolves are very much enemies. They are opposed to one another in whatever capacity it is that they are working.
Competing over a good young Mormon girl.
Yeah, whatever it is. Whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
You know, there's a lot that vampire, you know, you have Alcide and you have Eric, and they don't like each other either. They're also competing over a girl. There's a lot of competing over girls in all of this. This is a through line, it turns out.
From the beginning.
But in Count Dracula controls the wolves in the area. And honestly, I think at some point they unionized, and that's the reason that they hate each other. I can't tell you for sure, but in the original text, they are not just allies, but employees of the vampire. Who knows what happened? I wasn't there.
I mean, it was the 19th century.
It was time.
It was time.
It was time to unionize. But that is not necessarily in the text. That's my own interpretation of what happened. So all of these workers are boxing up all of this dirt. Dracula is getting ready to prepare for this move to England.
Okay.
Jonathan is trying to escape And these 3 women materialize, these brides of Dracula. And they are described as sensual and voluptuous. And they attempt to fairly successfully attempt to seduce Jonathan. He does not put up much of a fight, despite the fact that he seems very in love with his fiancée Mina. And it is not until the vampire Dracula intercedes and says, like, leave him alone, he's mine, that these women scuttle off. We know that they are there to, like, drink the blood of Jonathan, drink him dry, and, like, have a good meal. But he doesn't know that because he doesn't know they're vampires. That won't be revealed for, like, another few hundred pages. He just thinks that these women are trying to seduce him. And he's not particularly trying too hard to push them off, which is something that we will circle back to, halfway through this book. The way that Bram Stoker, the author, writes women is crazy.
There's a through line of sorts.
There is a through line. And let's get started with that right now, because Jonathan's fiancée, Mina, is writing her own journal entries and letters at the same time that Jonathan is going through all of this. Mina is writing letters to her best friend, Lucy. She's about to go stay with Lucy. They are besties. They are so, like, on the same page, twin flame, interpreted as lovers by some, best friends by others. And I know that there's a lot of queer-coded dialogue in vampire pop culture in general. But I genuinely think that Bram Stoker just had never had a conversation with a woman, let alone 2 women at the same time, and didn't really know how to write women. And the reason that Mina and Lucy say things where they're like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And, like, I'm so lucky to be your friend. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. I don't know what I would do without you. Is because he's trying to set up the story for later when Lucy eventually becomes attacked by Dracula, and understand that, like, there is this tension because what do you do without your best friend?
Right.
But also he doesn't know how to write women. And so they come off sounding odd.
It's really, like, inorganic dialogue.
It's very inorganic dialogue, and also does not pass the Bechdel test, because they are largely talking about Mina talking about how proud she is of Jonathan on his first business trip, and then Lucy is being courted by these 3 men. All 3 men want to marry her, and the description we have of Lucy is blonde, these big doe eyes. She's very gentle. She's very sweet. She's demure. She's just, like, the loveliest, kindest girl. And the 3 men who want to marry her are Arthur Holmwood, who his father, Lord Godalming, he's in line to inherit, and over the course of the story does inherit his father's title. We have Quincy Morris, who is the American cowboy caricature of American cowboys. Truly do not believe Bram Stoker ever met an American, because the slang and the dialogue is so outrageous.
If you've seen Porco Rosso, I think it's like Curtis. I think it's like Curtis, the American character.
It's so over the top. It's so outrageous. And everyone's like, his slang is crazy. And I, as an American, I'm like, yeah, it's outlandish. Like, no one talks like this. And then we have Dr. John Stewart. You will notice that we have a Jonathan and a John. Did not get super creative with English names, Clearly. It turns out. Bram Stoker was Irish. I don't know if he's criticizing the English for their lack of large categories of names that you can choose from, or if he just didn't care. But we have Jonathan and we have Dr. John. Lucy chooses Arthur, who of the 3 men is the richest. And the other 2 men are like, you know what? Let's just stay friends. That sounds great. We totally respect that decision. And we want to stay in your life. Zero issues with her being like, I don't want to marry you. Like, all 3 men propose, and she's like, I'm going to pick Arthur. And the other guys are like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's stay friends. Zero issues. And I love that. That's, like, the least misogynistic thing to happen in the whole book.
Like, the read I'm getting,
Crazy. Something you need to know about Dr. John is that he runs the asylum for the mentally insane. In his basement, he has a man named Renfeld. Renfeld is trying to absorb the life force of others. He does this by eating initially flies and then using honey to trap the flies so that spiders will come and eat them. And then he starts eating the spiders. And then he tries to use the spiders to trap other animals. And it gets to the point where he asks Dr. John for a cat. He asks Dr. John for a cat. And Dr. John's like, no.
So it also sounds like there's a charcuterie situation happening in
It's a
Dracula
high
as well.
protein charcuterie. Yeah. It's gross. It's ridiculous, actually, is what it is. Thank you so much. It's not quite the berries and nuts that Homie was enjoying. And because he doesn't have access to fire, it's raw. He eats a raw bird. It's real gross. All of it's disgusting. And he keeps trying to hide it from Dr. John. And Dr. John has attendants like watching this man day and night.
Yeah.
So we all know when he's lying and when he's telling the truth, when he's lucid and when he's not. Next door to Dr. John's asylum is the manor that Dracula is going to move into. Because, of course, you have an abandoned manor and an insane asylum next to each other. This is a classic Gothic novel. We couldn't make it more clear if we tried that everything is spooky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, back in Transylvania, Jonathan has been abandoned in this castle, and Dracula has procured a ship to take the 50 boxes of dirt that I mentioned earlier, travel them to England because apparently he has to sleep on dirt from his homeland.
I too travel with 50 boxes of dirt.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I absolutely.
Yeah, it's very expensive to fly these days with 50 boxes of dirt, but we do it.
Yeah, we send our dirt ahead of time.
We're committed to the bit. No, so the magical system in the story is really not explained. We don't know how he controls the animals. We don't understand why he needs the dirt. There will come a lot of like Catholic symbolism later, also not explained. We don't know if Dracula is Catholic and that is the reason it works, or if it's simply like an anti-Catholic rhetoric, or pro-Catholic. I mean, Bram Stoker's an Irish Protestant, so probably not pro-Catholic, but who's to say? Yeah. We don't have these answers, unfortunately. We have a lot of questions about the magical systems in this book because he's just like, you know what? It's magic. Who cares? It happens.
It's like there's soft magic and then there's this, which is like some kind of mud.
It's the pre-soft magic.
It's pre-soft magic. Ew. Flaccid magic.
It's unexplained is what it is. It's just like, you know what? It's magic. Who cares? Just go with it.
Just go with it.
Just go with it. Dracula takes this ship to England and over the course of the journey slowly picks off, drains, devours, and destroys everyone on the ship. We know this because of the captain's log. The captain is like, people keep going overboard. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's very upset. And at some point he ends up like tying himself to the steering wheel of the ship because he is the only person left and he is afraid that if he leaves, they won't make it. He doesn't make it. So sorry. So the ship arrives in England and it is a ghost ship. It is abandoned. There is no one on it. There are just 50 boxes of dirt and a ton of rats, which Eggers' Nosferatu really leans into to the tune of 5,000 live rats in the 2024 Nosferatu. No other adaptation uses this many rats.
Faithful adaptation.
Yeah. It's possibly the most accurate adaptation, actually most true to the original source. And Nosferatu is something that was created because Bram Stoker's widow didn't want people to make a Dracula adaptation. And the first one that was actually approved was in 1931, and it was the Bela Lugosi Dracula.
The original Dracula film.
The original Dracula film.
Which I have not seen.
It's okay. I've seen all of them. In anticipation for this recording, I watched every Dracula adaptation. There are so many to all sorts of degrees of success and accuracy. Some are better than others, for sure.
Oh my gosh, are you a media production specialist?
I might be.
Your media analysis
I might
is
have watched everything and regretted about half of it. But it is interesting how we explore vampires in pop culture. And we will get to that in a minute when I finally wrap up telling you this 500-page story of Dracula.
I mean, it's long.
But
you're making it so funny. Like, it's such a good listen.
Oh, glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're enjoying it more than I seemed to when I was reading it. So we have this ship that comes in. The boxes of dirt get picked up and distributed by a different solicitor's office than the one that Jonathan works for.
Okay.
Dracula pretty much immediately locks into Lucy, Mina's friend, the woman who all of the men were proposing to and decided to stay friends with. Beautiful blonde girl. She is now engaged to Arthur. And while Mina is visiting her, Lucy sleepwalks to the point where she has to be tied to the bed so that she doesn't, like, fall out of a window.
Okay, real.
This is unsuccessful.
She
ends up sleepwalking all the way up the hill to the graveyard next to a church because, again, Gothic literature, everything has to be in the spookiest
the graveyard next to the church,
place.
next to the asylum, by the old abandoned mansion.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, at night when there's, like, fog rolling in off of the water, the only light is moonlight.
The Flying Dutchman cackles in the distance.
Truly. Just everything is haunted. Everything is spooky. This is one of the original Gothic novels and where all of these spooky, dark ideas sort of came from. Very important to understand. This is why we're talking about this story in this episode. It is classic in the true sense of the word.
It is. Yeah, and I'm loving it.
It's crazy. Lucy is attacked by Dracula several times. She starts getting paler and paler and sicker, and people can't figure out what's wrong. Mina reaches out to Dr. John, who she knows from Lucy's letters, and she's like, hey, you love my friend. Please help me. Please save her. And he shows up. He's like, I do not recognize this. I don't know what to do. Also, this is not the kind of doctor that he is. Like,
isn't he like a psych?
Yeah, he runs a mental asylum. Like, he's a doctor, but like, this is not his kind of doctor. Yeah. Right? This is like when someone on the plane says, is there a doctor here? And the doctor of literature does not say, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
Right? That's when the nurse in the next row has to stand up and help.
Right.
And funnily enough, Dr. John reaches out to a colleague of his who's also not he is kind of a medical doctor, but Abraham Van Helsing, who is the most self-insert character anyone has ever encountered in literature. And this becomes a theme because Stephenie Meyer is then a self-insert character as Bella Swan in Twilight.
In her seductive khaki skirt.
Yeah. Edward just can't keep his hands off that long khaki skirt.
Hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of years old. Sexiest thing he's ever seen. I don't know why anyone would write that, but it is in print. It is in print, and everyone has read it. It's crazy. More people have read that than have read this, and that's wild.
That's real. Okay, I mean, that's terrible. I mean, well, I don't know. It's not terrible. It's real. It's a thing that happened.
It is the reality in which we exist.
Touche.
Yeah. So we have Abraham Van Helsing. Reminder: Bram Stoker's first name is Abraham Stoker. The physical description of Abraham Van Helsing is a 1-to-1 match for Stoker.
With some embellishment.
I mean, he does make himself sound a little bit better, but this character is a doctor of literature and psychology and medicine, and then it just says et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I like to call him Doctor. We're not really sure how old he is or how long he's been studying to be a doctor of everything, but he is considered to be the foremost expert on everything anyone needs to know for the rest of the book.
Self-insert indeed.
Self-insert. And he's always spoken of as the nicest, kindest, most helpful, best person everyone knows.
Smells good, shit's gold.
Yes.
Perfect skin.
Well, not that, but he didn't care about that. He just needs to be the nicest, smartest, best person everyone knows. The truest friend, the greatest hero, all of it.
Well, of course.
And the only other character who is described to the same degree of accuracy, but also detail as Van Helsing is Dracula. And Dracula is a 1-to-1 comparison. And this is so great. This is one of my favorite things. Sir Henry Irving, who was Bram Stoker's boss for decades, was an actor. And he is a 1-to-1 comparison for the description of Dracula. There are a couple different schools of thought. Some people are like, oh, well, maybe Bram Stoker was trying to create a story that he thought his boss could star in, right? Like, this is like being the assistant to Brad Pitt. Like, he was huge. He's knighted, right? Like, huge. Everyone knew who he was. He was a big deal actor. And there's this idea that it's like, well, maybe he was trying to write a story that his boss could then take on and star in. And there's another school of thought where people are like, well, maybe he was in love with his boss. And this is an ode to how wonderful his boss was and the longing, the yearning, the not being able to have him, you know, these two characters on the opposite end of ideals, essentially. And to that, I would say if I had a crush on someone and I wrote a 500-page novel about how they are the worst, most evil, vile, despicable, blood-sucking character of all time, who I then also described as like having a childlike brain and not being capable of like true rationality, I don't think that's a crush. I think that's a job that I need to quit for my mental health.
Yeah, like if it's your boss and you're like this isn't like a red, white, and royal blue Henry Alex thing.
No.
This is very much like I work for this guy and he sucks.
He's sucking the life out of literally everything and everyone around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that.
I agree.
That's my personal interpretation
It sounds like
of the text. The rest of the characters are described as like blonde and pretty or like tall with brown hair, and that's about it. And these two men have like pages of description. So it's not subtle in any sense.
Not at all. Not at all.
Van Helsing comes. He is this Dutch-educated scientist. He knows everything. He's an expert in the occult and literature and science and anything that they need, basically, that is unexplained or unknown for the rest of the story.
Okay.
Van Helsing's the only one who can tell you how the magical systems in this world work. But he's so verbose that it is just pages and pages of monologues. It is...
Of course.
He just doesn't shut up.
Because
I
he's
think the book...
writer. I mean, the educated.
Yes.
Man.
I think the book would probably be like 200 pages less if he could just directly answer a question instead of pontificate. Which is why if you break it down and read it in an epistolatory style, you know...
It becomes better.
It's a lot more manageable. Yes. Lucy doesn't make it. But they do end up sort of figuring out what is wrong with her and why she is the way that she is. She does die, however. She comes back to life as a vampire and then starts feeding on the children of the town.
Yeah.
The children go missing. They show up just like bloodless carcasses. It's dark. It's gothic. We knew this going in.
Children die in gothic novels.
Children die in gothic novels. Everyone dies in gothic novels. Usually the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's how these stories go. We'll get to so many of those this
Truly.
season.
Yeah, it's true.
It's crazy how many people die in gothic novels. Lucy is attacking these children. And I think there's an interesting dialogue to be had about Dracula feeding off of Lucy and Lucy feeding off of children.
Yeah.
And so the perpetrator is always going after someone smaller and weaker than them. But then what does that say about the three women who attack Jonathan?
Yeah.
Is he smaller and weaker? Is he more simple-minded? Is it because there's three of them and one of him? Something that I think explains the way that Bram Stoker feels about women and the characters that he writes is the way that he describes Lucy before she dies and then after. If you'll remember, I described the Brides of Frankenstein as sensual and voluptuous.
Yeah.
And then Lucy was described as sweet and kind and lovely. After she dies and is turned into a vampire, she is now also described as sensual and voluptuous to the point where it is repulsive to Dr. John, who was once in love with her. He's like, she's so sensual and I hate it, and it's not even her, it's not who she is, it's wrong. And I think that speaks to the way that Bram Stoker feels about women.
Yeah.
Because the only other woman in the story now is Mina, and she's described as clever and having the mind of a man. And everyone's like, it's a shame she's not a man. She's so smart. She has the mind of a man. And I think in Bram Stoker's world, that's the highest compliment, but in mine, it's a huge insult.
It is tremendous insult.
But this is a book that comes to us from the 1850s. So we are doing with that what we can.
Yeah.
There are very different dialogues being had then versus now.
Absolutely.
But the way that he writes women as perpetrators and men as victims of lustful thoughts and lust in general, I think speaks to what was going on at the time.
And what's going on now, this sort of like blaming femininity with agency
Yes.
for being a divergence of what true femininity is supposed to be, which is apparently supposed to be doe-eyed and blonde and able to be pulled around.
Yes. Well, and the phrase doe-eyed started coming about after people stopped describing women as like childlike, innocent, and like having this sense of wonder and whims, you know, like the goodness was transformed into something that is now slightly more age appropriate, so that it's slightly less creepy that you're equating this woman to a child, but like the implication is still there.
It's still childlike. It's still vulnerable.
Yes. It's still very innocent. Gross.
I agree.
Here we
talked
are.
about this on our Pygmalion episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Another creator and created
kind of
concept.
moment.
Yes. Van Helsing figures out how to kill Lucy, stop her reign of terror on these children. And the children will describe Lucy as beautiful, which is different, which is interesting. They call her the beautiful woman, the beautiful lady. The men, however, who used to be in love with her are all repulsed and horrified. And then Van Helsing is like, okay, we figured out how to kill her. Arthur, you do it. Arthur, her fiance.
Yeah.
Not the other two guys who like got turned down by her. Arthur's the one who then has to take the stake and stab it through her heart and like go through the additional trauma of killing the woman that he loves again after already having mourned her.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
Great. Like that. We could do like 3 episodes and a paper on like that element particularly.
Truly nuts. And then that part of that story just sort of ends and wraps up, except that Dracula then turns his sights onto Mina. But he doesn't fully have her in his grasp. He only feeds from her like once or twice. She ends up with this mark on her forehead, which is very biblical.
Quite.
And I think that also speaks to Bram Stoker's sources of inspiration. A lot of people like to say that there is a very serious Transylvanian Vlad the Impaler influence, and Dracula being a Transylvanian ruler does sort of speak to that, but Bram Stoker is also Irish, and the Irish folklore story of the Overtoch, this dwarf king who sucks the blood out of his victims and has to be buried upside down in the earth and has to be stabbed with a dagger of yew wood, is much more closely aligned to the story of Dracula than Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah. And it's tied to Bram Stoker's sort of origins.
Yes. Place. Growing up in Ireland, he would have heard these stories much more often than he would have heard a story about Vlad the Impaler, bloody ruler from the 1500s.
Right. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So you can have multiple sources of inspiration, but I think that focusing too much on one means that a lot of people sort of forget the other one.
Yeah.
And then if you look at Ryan Coogler's Sinners, we do have that Irish character, that Irish vampire character who does sort of emote more of the Overtoch style and origin story than the Impaler story, which I love how much research he did. That is an exceptional film if anyone hasn't already seen it.
So well done.
I love it. I've seen it multiple times.
Normally, for the record, I'm doing my research in patterns of American identity formation. I go into any movie that was set like at any time in the 20th century, and I go in like so like stickler for details. But I was watching that and I was like, okay.
I mean, and they got all the details right, which is the craziest part. Even the littlest details.
You kind of ate with this one, right?
He really nailed it.
He is from Oakland. We are both from Oakland, though, so I might
Shout
have
out
looked
to
the other way.
I'm not from there, but it is lovely.
It is great. Sorry, go on.
So we have these different inspirations, and like I said, the Catholic inspiration as well, where Van Helsing is defeating these vampires with rosary crosses and holy water and communion wafers when it's written by a Protestant author, and you can tell because wafers are usually blessed right before someone takes communion. They're not just like perpetually blessed by the nature of being a wafer.
Could you imagine?
And so I don't, again, the magical system is not explained super well, so we don't have a full through line of like, are they blessed or are they just wafers that we're throwing at vampires Who's to say?
I love the idea of like a blessing in a bottle, just add water.
Yes,
kind of vibe.
yes. You know, just like the spray bottles that you hit like naughty cats and dogs with.
Yeah.
Like just spritzing.
Just say some Latin over it and you're good.
Well, and who decided that
Yeah,
Latin
who
was
decided?
the language?
I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of unexplained things going on
It's
here that I
true.
think just sort of lean into the mystery and the unknown that Gothic literature is famous for.
Yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of unexplained. There's a lot of fear of the unknown
Mhm.
and using sort of the more pagan ritualistic elements of Catholicism
Mhm.
really lends itself to that.
Yeah,
Because is Dracula Catholic? We don't know.
no clue.
Probably not, honestly.
No.
Probably not. Who's to say? No real way to know because Bram Stoker didn't say anything about it. So they start hunting Dracula,
Mhm.
and he flees back to Transylvania.
Okay.
But because he has attempted to feed from Mina, she can now sense him, which is something that Lucy couldn't do. So I'm not sure.
Again with that like muddy magic system.
The muddy magic is really carrying the weight here.
It's
Truly.
the unknown. Ooh.
It's the unknown. Who's to say? They travel back
Mhm.
to Transylvania over all different types of transport because they're not sure how he is getting back.
Mhm.
They have people on trains. They have people on horses. They're doing it all, right? Dracula turns out is on a boat.
Oh, toot toot.
It's apparently his favorite mode of transportation. He does not consume the people on the boat this time.
Oh.
I think because he is fed so well in England that he does not need to feed from the ship
Oh, he's just
to get
full.
home. He's full.
Okay.
He's good to go.
I've been there, girl.
And it's interesting because he never gets more attractive as he feeds the way that the women do. He just starts to look a little younger, which
this
is
again
weird.
like just Bram Stoker, just like you're actually permanently unattractive,
Yes.
unlike everyone else.
You look the same. You don't get to change. You're the same no matter what. You look just like my boss.
That's your punishment.
Your punishment is that you have to look like Sir Henry Irving, no matter what.
Oh my god.
And I love that for him. If I ever had a boss that I hated that much and I had to write 500 pages of self-insert fan fiction to kill him off, I get it.
I get it.
I
get
guess.
it. And it's immortalized? Sure. You know.
It's still in print 120-something years later.
Why not?
We all know about it. And it's interesting because imagine like Julie Andrews' assistant one day becoming more famous than Julie Andrews. Like that is the equivalent, right? Everyone knows who Bram Stoker is, but most people now do not know who Sir Henry Irving was.
It's like the only, I think I've said this to you before, like the closest thing we could sort of have to that would be if the person who wrote The Devil Wears Prada became, because it was a book before it was a film, became more famous than Anna Wintour. That did not happen.
No.
But like that's the only like analog that we would have for that.
Yeah, and it's simply not.
It's simply not.
We're not there.
Tisn't.
But everyone does know The Devil Wore Prada, and
Oh
we
my
do love
gosh.
that.
You think that sweater is just blue? It's not blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually
Cerulean. We're looking forward to the sequel, guys.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna get drunk and watch it. Probably.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be awesome.
So anyway, Jonathan catches back up to the group eventually. Lovely, fantastic. Arthur has inherited his seat as a lord and is funding the entire expedition to chase down Dracula.
Sure.
Because everyone needs that one rich friend to fund
Absolutely.
their travel journey together. Quincy Morris, the cowboy, is the one who finally eventually kills Dracula. No one talks about the fact that Dracula is done in by a cowboy.
Yeehaw.
And I think that that is something the culture needs to discuss
I
more.
fear you are absolutely right. Absolutely. In an era of like steam trains and ships and coaches and cowboys, the vampire is killed by a cowboy. Like, how fun is that?
Yes. Well, and this is such like a steampunky sort of time in history because we still have samurais, we still have pirates,
Yep.
but we also have Kodak cameras
Mhm.
and Coca-Cola and revolvers, and everything is going on all at once.
Crazy time period. The Civil War came and went.
Yeah. A
Westward
lot is
expansion
going
was
on.
happening.
A lot is going on all at once.
Crazy window.
And I do love Bram Stoker's use of Dracula as this old world character
Mhm.
of mythos sort of invading modern society. coming in, spreading disease, spreading ruin.
Mhm.
It's like a very small snapshot piece of colonialism, but instead of England going out and destroying other people, it is someone coming in and destroying England.
It's the reverse.
It's the reverse, and how horrific it is from the perspective of the people inside.
Yeah.
And as an Irish author, I do not believe that that is unintentional.
Absolutely, I agree. And you know what? I would argue, or this is my interpretation, same thing with Shelley's Frankenstein.
Mhm.
I think the homie being made from what Victor thought were the most beautiful parts of the dead bodies around him is sort of the equivalent of the most prolific empires of the old world all taking their shot at the Americas
Yes.
and then subsequently losing their hold in the Americas, and the Americas growing into its own entity, left to its devices. What they thought was sort of like a bastardization of all of their traditions. They thought it was ugly, even though it was made from all of their most beautiful parts. And it went AWOL. Like it went off and did its thing. And they're like, oh my God, now what's it gonna do?
Yes, we've lost control of the monster. We've lost
Absolutely.
control of the beast.
The beast is on its own and it is gonna hurt us. And it did, you know, with
Yeah.
the because this was
A
the
wild social experiment.
crazy. And by the time that she wrote, you know, Frankenstein, the War of 1812 had coming on, like America
Mhm.
was already punching back to the old world
Yes.
as a sovereign entity.
Yes. Westward expansion was happening in real time.
And so I think it's so interesting. I think both of these stories are deeply political texts as well as
Yes.
just fun stories.
Yes.
And I think the political nature of them, that deserves like a real deep dive. I think that deserves like a true exploration because we could go on and on about that
For
one.
like hours.
Truly, we
It's
could.
so fascinating. And I think also the fact that Gothic literature is one of the few genres that has always been in print and will
Mhm.
always be in print, because the fear of the unknown and the fear of what is happening in real time
Mhm.
is always present.
Yeah.
There's always something going on where people are like, I'm terrified. This is horrible. Something awful is happening, and I don't have a good way to deal with it, and I don't have a good monster to compare it to.
Mhm.
And if you look back at historical adaptations,
Mhm.
we have the Bela Lugosi version of Dracula come out in 1931, which was directly after the stock market crash that led to the Great Depression.
Yep.
We have 2008, where America went through another dramatic recession.
Yeah.
We had Twilight. We had
Vampire Diaries.
we had True Blood.
Oh God.
We had television and books galore and all of those are series based on book series.
Yeah.
They were all film adaptations of books, which is one of my favorite ways to do it. When you
Mhm.
have all of this backstory and history, and you are able to play with these stories in
Yeah.
different mediums, I
Mhm.
think the way that you can explore that is really lovely and beautiful.
I agree.
And done better sometimes than others. But we also have, again, another resurgence of vampire and Gothic literature coming out, films being made right now when we are at another time of economic crisis. And I think that people looking at the way that the world is and needing to know, as C.S. Lewis said, not just that there are monsters, but that monsters can be defeated,
Mhm.
is so valuable to society as a whole.
I think, well, I guess I have a couple of questions for you now.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about monsters and specifically sort of like vampires or even gothic creatures, this sort of fear of the unknown, and how that's reflective of a moment, if you could sort of create a monster in a story that you think represented this current moment, what would it look like? Because you also talked about sort of the idea of immortality and being able to weather a storm being very alluring.
Yes, I think that the idea that there are these creatures who are hundreds, if not thousands of years old, who have seen everything and survived it,
Mhm.
is very attractive in a time where the future is uncertain.
Mhm.
When you have characters like vampires, when you have characters like Frankenstein who can survive the tundra, he
Yeah.
doesn't need the shelter, he doesn't need everything that we as the average human need to survive. And then you have these vampire characters who have adapted to a different way of living, who live in the night, who
Yeah.
live in the dark. I think that both Dracula and Frankenstein, you have these characters wherein the most important scenes all happen under moonlight. They happen in the dark. They happen in the evening. They happen not in the bright light of day, but they happen at a time where like most people are not out, things are not as prevalent, and you sort of get to explore that darker side of what society is like and how you engage with it and what it means and
Things
how
are
it
very
still impacts
discreet.
you. Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of creating new monsters. I think it's the idea of putting a current fear on something that you can identify. And something that I like to say a lot now that I've been doing all the research for this episode is that most people haven't read Dracula, but everyone knows how to kill a vampire.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So that sort of ties into the ideological posterity of it.
Yeah.
Sort of everyone knows how to kill a vampire. Everyone knows how to be on the other side of the scary thing. But not everyone has read Dracula. And I think it's, because of the universality of the triumph of defeating
you don't have to have
vampires.
read Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire to know the story. You don't have to have read Dracula to know the story. I mean, you might be surprised that a cowboy kills him, but
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw indeed. There are all sorts of nuances to the story that get lost as it changes and gets retold. But the crux of the story, that fear of the unknown, the fear of impending doom, and trying your best to fight to stay alive another day, to fight to continue, those parts of the story, that runs true and that perseveres across every version of every text, from well-upheld classic literature to self-published smut that still includes vampires. we have across the spectrum, every version. The vampire concept holds very true.
Yeah, it is consistent.
You still have to be, stabbed through the heart with a stake of wood. They're still sensitive to light. They can't touch a crucifix. You can't see them in a mirror. And we're not really sure why, because Dracula's magic building system is a little muddy.
Yeah.
But regardless of what piece of literature or pop culture media you consume, those are the things that hold true.
Consistent rules.
Yeah.
I wonder, and I know there's no way that Bram Stoker intended this or knew that this would happen.
This was his only book.
But wow, the level, people really take it, because I think that's the beauty of Gothic literature. When there is so much that is unknown, it also leaves a great deal open for interpretation.
Yes.
And I think Gothic theming has sort of been consistent across the evolution of literature since that time. Since books have been in print, any piece of fiction that has any element of the unknown leaves a lot open, which is why I think that sort of that punchy statement, maybe the curtains were just blue. Maybe, but the entire history, the legacy of Gothic literature and fiction anytime after 1600, and honestly, not even before then too, suggests that maybe there's a reason the curtains are blue.
Yes. I mean, Agatha Christie's not going to mention it if it's not relevant.
That's the sound of my agreement. That is the sound of emphatic agreement.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, bestie.
Yeah. All right. I think we are getting to time today.
I think we're about wrapped.
But how do you feel? Do you think that everyone should read Frankenstein?
Kate, I think everyone should read Frankenstein. I think everyone should read Frankenstein. I think everyone should be inspired to write their own version of Frankenstein. I would like to see more Frankenstein remakes. I think everyone should read Frankenstein. I think it is still relevant. I think it really is analogous with nihilism. I think it's analogous with Americana. And I feel like we can explore so much with those two things. I think it's analogous also between scientific revolution, enlightenment, new world versus old world, feudalism versus mercantilism, what became capitalism. There's so much you could do with Frankenstein. Everyone should read Frankenstein, yes. Should everyone, in your opinion, read Dracula?
They maybe shouldn't read it the way that I did, where you just sit down and try to absorb it all in one go. I think that there's so much fun to be had in Dracula if you take your time with it. And I think that so many people are so rushed these days. There is such a desire to add books to your checklist. You've finished it. You checked it off. How many books did you read this month, last month, this year?
Yeah.
And I think there is a real beauty in taking it slow and being able to really absorb the depth and the breadth of almost 500 pages. So if you read it gently, I think, you can enjoy it and there's a lot to get out of it.
It could even be an exercise in mindfulness.
I would love that. If people are going to sit down and meditate and pick up a couple pages, it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
but I don't know if everyone's going to love it. And I think that there are some very old world misogynistic undertones that like not everyone needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everyone's going to have a good time with that. But I do think that as a classic piece of literature, it holds up.
Well, okay. My name is Drew. I'm a sociologist.
My name is Kate. I am a media production specialist.
And this was Everyone Should Read.
Thank you so much for listening. And while you're still here, tell your librarian we love them.